Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to another episode of Arca NASCAR Backmarker News. I'm your host of the Arca Racing podcast, Colby Evans, coming to you today with another episode of Backmarkers, bringing up all the news and notes that we've recently seen for about the last week and a half. I haven't done one of these in about a week and a half, so I figured why not do another one. Not kind of the hierarchy NASCAR news. We focus more on Arca and the backmarkers. You know, the stuff about Colleague that was announced today. We won't go over that because it doesn't really range with what we talk about here on the show. That's the big budget news. We talk about probably about the 20th on back news. You know, that's kind of how we roll here. Anyway, let's get a little intro. Follow me on social media at Start and Parker on Twitter. Follow Arca Racing on Twitter. Follow my good buddy Brad Smith on Twitter. And follow anyone else you want to on Twitter, I guess. Also, check out my other videos. We just had our very first Arca Racing podcast of 2022 last Wednesday, covering the Run Daytona test. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Go check that out. And yeah, let's have some fun tonight. So let's get right into it. We'll start off with the Arca portion of our show. Then we don't have a lot of Arca news and notes. It's majority NASCAR, but let's get Arca out of the way first. Visconti Motorsports, as we mentioned, will not have a full-time driver this season, and they are not going to have Mason Diaz returning. Visconti Motorsports announced a couple of weeks ago that Mason Diaz will not be returning full-time, but they are actively seeking a full-time driver, hopefully to run the full 2022 E-Series season. With the news of a couple of days ago, they will not be running full-time. I mean, with one driver. They will be running full-time for the Owners' Championship, but they are not running full-time for the Drivers' Championship. Canadian Series driver, he runs up in the Pinty Series division up north. Donald Teague, I hope I pronounced his name right, will be driving the 74 in the first two races of 2022, which would be at New Smyrna, and then I believe the second one would be at Pensacola. I think this is a good pickup. The couple of times we saw Donald Teague driving the DGM car, he did a really good job. I mean, he crashed a couple of times, but overall, Donald did a very good job. I think being on these short tracks will definitely help Donald be a little bit more competitive, be a little bit more aggressive. But overall, I think it's a good job. And people ask, well, Visconti won't be able to go after the Drivers' Championship. Remember, guys, Arca does not pay for the Drivers' Championship. That's what I was being told. That's what I've been told by a couple of Arca guys, that the Drivers' Championship either doesn't pay at all or doesn't pay very well. The Owners' Championship is what pays. And I don't blame, I think it's Visconti for going after the Owners' Championship instead of the Drivers' Championship. That still leaves 5 races open. Who will they get? We don't know. Will Donald run more races? Again, we're not sure. But they pretty much did confirm that Visconti is going to try their best to run the whole season. Who else would get to drive the car? There's plenty of young kids out there. There's plenty of people available. But Visconti will be running full-time this season, just not with one particular driver. But I'm very happy for Donald. I think it's a good opportunity. We haven't seen him on the Xfinity and Arca side in a couple of years, so it's good to see him return. Pandemic may have had something to do with that, sadly, but good to see Donald back, and I wish him the best of luck at Pensacola and at New Smyrna, and definitely will be covering that where he runs. So good for Donald. Definitely deserves it. Next Arca news. I mentioned to you guys, I think it was my last episode, that Josh White was getting sponsorship for his couple of races with Club Racing. But what he recently released a couple of days ago was that fans can now sponsor his car. This is an opportunity for the fans of, the Arca Racing podcast, Arca fans alike. If you want your name on a car, this is an easy opportunity to do it. Simply go to Josh White's Facebook. It's not that hard. Just simply type in Josh White on Facebook. There might be a couple of them that pop up, but it'll be pretty easy to find the Josh White, the race car driver. And if you want to scroll down on his pictures, you will find the picture, but I got the prices here and I'll explain it to you in a second. But it's basically type of a fan sponsorship deal. And I got the prices right here in case you guys want to check it out. For $20, you simply get your name on the car. Your race-specific choosing probably, but simply $20 will get your name on the car. If there's an Arca race in your area that Josh will be racing at for his 3 races, $250 would get your name on the car plus a VIP pit pass. You could hang out with Josh. You could hang out with my good buddy Alex Clubb and meet the guys. You know, a very hardworking team who, a very hardworking team who may not get the best results they deserve, but definitely work their ass off. So that's a good opportunity there. And then the ultimate fan experience package, which would be, again, name on the car. I think it would be a big logo on the car. Sorry, excuse me again. Big logo on the car, VIP pass, and maybe, and I didn't quite read up on it again, but check out Josh White's Facebook. He'll be able to go into more detail about it. But it's a good opportunity if you guys have, $20 to spare, and you guys want to get your name on a race car. It's that simple. Contact Josh White on his Facebook and get your names out there in a race car. It's a fun opportunity. I'm probably going to do it, even though sadly Josh will not be racing Iowa. I'm probably going to hit my name on there, and I suggest you guys too. It'd be a great way to help out a good friend in Alex Clubb. They want to go full-time this season. It's just, unfortunately, the sponsorship just is not quite there. They got about a little over half the season sold, but unfortunately, that looks like it's all it's going to turn out to be right now. But I'm hoping that they can make more races, obviously, in 2022 because that guy works so damn hard, and he's such a fun guy. So, but best of luck to them. And again, check out Josh White's Facebook and take advantage of this opportunity. If you want to get your name on a car, this is one of the cheapest and most fun ways to do it. And again, this is not a start and park. This is not going to be a car that this is not going to be a deal where you're going to put your name on a car, but he's going to pull in after a couple laps. That's not the case here. This car will run, or at least attempt to run the full race, pending mechanical issues or a crash. But so you're not wasting your money. This car will be running the whole distance, and more than likely it will be getting lapped. It's not the quickest car out there, so your name might be on TV. There's your appeal. Go do it. Go check him out on Facebook, and definitely take advantage of this cool deal. Another Arca news kind of has a tie-in with NASCAR, but it does go together. You guys remember Justin Carroll last year? He had that fiery crash in the Dover East race, which pretty much put a damper on his Arca season. Did run a couple of more races after that and was going to try to attempt a truck race. Unfortunately, with the stupid COVID truck rules, qualifying didn't happen. Therefore, they weren't allowed to race. So, but they are back. They have announced that they are returning for 2022, which is good. I'm very happy for them. They work their butts off. I mean, pretty much any Arca team works their butts off. No one really gives any Arca team the credit they deserve for just how hard they work. But again, that's just because it doesn't get much publicity, sadly. I wish as I did. But they will be back. Did not specify, that's the word I was looking for, how many races they will be running in 2022. I would presume probably, let's see here. I would say about 6 to 7 truck races and maybe about 5 to 6 Arca races, maybe a couple of East events too. Again, that's just my guess. Take that with a grain of salt. But this team will not be full-time. They don't have the funding to even come close to running full-time. And don't even expect this team at the bigger tracks. For the truck team, I expect them to be primarily at the short tracks. But the Arca team, I could see running they did run a track like Kansas. So the biggest track I would expect to see Justin on would be Kansas. He is old enough to run all the races. If Justin wanted to, he could run Daytona if he wanted to. I just don't think they have the funding to. So I wish Justin would run Daytona, but obviously, with that truck race nowadays just being a demolition derby pretty much and survival of the fittest, I don't blame Justin for maybe not wanting to take that truck to Daytona, even though I wish he would. But nonetheless, I would expect at least 6 to 7 truck races for Justin Carroll Racing, and maybe a few more Arca races spreading across the main series and the East series. That is for sure. Some more fun Arca news that you guys may have seen from Mark Christie. Got a report that Fast Track Racing, Kyle Lester, I did get into your, we'll get into Fast Track right now. Fast Track Racing did announce its Daytona lineup. Andy Hillenberg does plan on fielding 4 full-time cars again, the 0, 1, 10, 11, and 12. And remember, the goal there is to get into the top 20 in Arca owner points. Because as I told you guys, Arca does not pay, I don't know if it's, they don't pay as much for driver points, but the primary way they pay Arca teams is by the owner standings. So the goal is to be in the top 20. From what I've been told by a lot of officials at the track and a lot of friends. That's why Andy tries to run 4 full-time cars, because obviously you want the chunk of change that comes along with it. But they did announce their Daytona lineup. I believe this is correct, but I hope I'm correct with this because I don't want to get them in the wrong cars. D.L. Wilson will run the familiar 12 car that he's run most of the time. Benny Chastain, who little people have some controversy about, will be in the 0-1, who is 78 years old, nearing 79. Benny Chastain, nearing 79 years old, will be running Daytona for Andy Hillenberg. Chuck Hears will be in the 10, and the Canadian Jason White will be in the 11. Not the gun broker Jason White, the Canadian Jason White. It's confusing that there's 2 different Jason Whites. There's the gun broker Jason White that I remember from the truck days, and then we got the Canadian Jason White, who's run for guys like Josh Riom in the truck series, and of course Andy Hillenberg before. Oh, Benny is 79. Apparently, from the chat just said Benny is 79. Wow, that breaks Hilton's record. I believe he was the oldest guy to run at Daytona at 78. So that does break Hilton's record. So does that make Benny the oldest guy to run in a sanctioned race around Daytona? Because Morgan Shepherd's last race at Daytona was 2016. That was the last race that Morgan ran for Daytona. So let's see here. Norm. What about Norm? No, Norm's only 70. Maybe that does make Benny Chastain the oldest guy to ever run a sanctioned race around Daytona. I guess that's a pretty cool record to hold. I didn't even think about that. Benny did run the 2 plate races last season, and even though he kind of ran by himself, there's some controversy around Benny Chastain. I don't really want to get into it, but let's just say I hope he brings Andy's car home in one piece. You know, I love Andy Hillenberg, and I just want all 4 cars to come home in one piece, safe and sound, so that way they can kind of move them to the back and keep them for Talladega. I don't want to see Andy Hillenberg with another crash car. We've seen Benny, despite his age, try his best to still run in the pack. So I'm curious to see how they're going to have Benny run this race. Chuck Hears, I think he's just kind of too much of a rookie. I don't see him being all that competitive. He's probably just going to latch on to a pack of cars and just kind of ride. DL Wilson, I could see DL trying to be competitive, trying to stay up in the draft. Jason White definitely will be up in the draft. Jason White's always been pretty competitive despite being a rookie. I mean, we haven't really only seen him for a couple of years, but has definitely been pretty competitive for an Andy Hillenberg equipment at Daytona. So I think it's a good lineup for Fast Track Racing. I did wish that that we would have seen our buddy Ed Pompa back, but fortunately Ed wasn't on the entry list. I always like seeing Ed run. Ever since we saw that amazing Darrell Waltrip throwback a couple years ago, I've been a full-on Ed Pompa fan. Who doesn't love Ed Pompa? But it's fine. We'll just have to wait. I have heard some rumblings about Andy maybe expanding cars, but always take that with a grain of salt. Definitely take that with a grain of salt. But never underestimate Andy Hillenberg running more cars. That's for sure. because we love Andy Hillenberg in this household. I believe they will. Kyle Usser in the chat. I do believe they will have Ilmores. I don't quote me on that, but I definitely DL I believe will have an Ilmore because he ran an Ilmore last year at Kansas. Jason will definitely have an Ilmore because he's probably the most competitive out of all four. I could see Benny maybe having an Ilmore, but I wouldn't be shocked me if they have given him an older Ilmore engine. I think all four of them will have Ilmores, but I think they'll probably be different in terms of how good they are. So, but I think all four cars will be easily able to keep up in the draft. It's just going to matter how the guys, manage the cars. Unclear if the team that God, what am I trying to say? The team that Benny ran for last year, the Dawson Cram team, the Bryce Hodgeberg team, they're still unclear if they're going to run or not. It would be nice though if they did run Daytona. I think it'd be a good opportunity. It'd be good to see that car run again. I did get some pictures. You guys may have seen last season. Tim Richmond's just awful crash from Michigan, and obviously that whole debacle with DGR. You guys remember the story I told you about with DGR giving Richmond Racing a chassis and a Toyota body from DGR's Toyota days. I did get it's a good car. I'm curious to see what kind of motor they can get. More than likely it'd be a fresh Ilmore because you'd want to be as competitive as you can be, but good to hear that Richmond Racing is definitely take advantage of that car that DGR gave them. And yeah, just hopefully they show up to Daytona as happy as they can be, obviously. Sir Relkstar in the chat. Yeah, DL's team, I have heard, has kind of been a combination effort. It's not a full Andy Hillenberg entry. I do believe, though, it is a Andy Hillenberg car because I've seen pictures of DL's car in Andy's shop. So I don't know. I know it's not 100% Andy's entry, but I haven't really heard the story of the combination effort between everyone. The Miles Thomas Motorsports team with Jason Miles. We've heard rumblings about that team. We even did see a picture with the number 92 Arca car. It did not show up to Daytona test. I like Jason Miles. I was able to meet him at Kansas a couple years ago. The chances of this team showing up, I'll believe it when I see it. I think it's a good team. The money, though, it all comes down to that almighty dollar. I don't know if we're actually going to see him at Daytona. I hope we do. More the merrier. More cars we can get, the more. That'd be great. So, hopefully we see that show up, but we'll just have to kind of wait and see. Apparently, from what Relkstein has said in the chat, that D.L. Wilson's cars are owned by Central Texas owner Ed Thompson and Thompson Racing. And apparently our good friend Brockbeard, who runs Last Car. Everyone check out Last Car. That's a little shout out. Everyone check out Last Car down info. Brockbeard's the best. He's the best. But yeah, didn't know that. Apparently they tested the Oh, yeah, that's right. And Jason Miles did test at Daytona in a Kimmel car. I don't believe that was actually his car. Was that his car or was that Kimmel's entry? Because Kimmel does have quite a few red Fords, I know still. I could believe that MT Motorsports and Kimmel could run in a partnership because obviously Kimmel Motorsports is Arca team. They just don't have the money to run full time anymore, sadly. I wish they could. I love Will. I love Bill. I see them all the time at Kansas. They're fun guys. They still love what they do. Even if they don't have a winning race car every week, they're still there every week. They're smiling. They're having a good time. And I just want them to have fun. But I wish Will could get behind the wheel more often. I feel like Will Kimmel, if he could have just gotten that one opportunity, he could have taken it. And he did get a couple of opportunities, but I just don't feel like he was in the prime of his career at that point to get that opportunity. But obviously, like I said, I hope any partner, if we could get a partnership to get the 69 to run the whole season of Arca, that would be amazing. because I know Scott Melton's going to do quite a few races as usual this season. And of course, we will see Will Kimmel at the dirt races as usual. Also, some more Arca news. Not really in terms of news for this season, but we have a birthday today. Bob Schatt. Remember Bob Schatt? He's a longtime Arca driver. Longtime NASCAR driver. Did run in the 1992 Daytona 500. I would like to send a special 72nd birthday to now retired Arca owner Bob Schatt. If you ever watch this, Bob, happy birthday. We love you. I hope you're still in good health. And thanks for giving over 40 years of your life to motorsports. We miss you. We hope you're still doing all right. And stay healthy, my man, and keep it up. So I wanted to give a little shout out there to Bob Schatt. He turned 72 today. And another old guy in the sport that, unfortunately, just kind of the costs was just a little too much. He still does work in the garage, but unfortunately, the costs to actually run his own team, especially at his age, being now in his early 70s, have just become too much, unfortunately. I do believe, though, his cars were sold. I know his cars did sell to another team. He didn't just, abandon everything he had. He pretty much sold his team, but I forgot who bought it because his team went out of business, I think, in late 2010s, but I didn't really read up on it. But again, still happy birthday to Bob, and hope we'll see at the track sometime in the future, but I don't know if I'll ever see at Kansas. If there's any more Arca news, I didn't really get any more down. If anyone in the chat has any more Arca news in the chat, otherwise we will move on to our NASCAR portion of the show. Again, click the like button if you guys want to. It'd be much appreciated. Subscribe just for fun, I will have my next episode of Start and Park Seasons out soon. I'm not telling anyone what it is, but we will have that out soon. Kyle Usser in the chat, Last Chance Racing. We did go over that in the last episode of the Arca Racing podcast. Andrew Tuttle and Caleb Costner will be running in the East and West Series. We already went over that last year. Apparently, they will run full time. Kind of be curious of how they're going to be able to manage that. That's a long haul because you got to think some of those races are in Phoenix and Portland, Oregon, and then you have some East races all the way in Pensacola, Florida. That is quite the haul. Quite the haul. But if there's no other news, we will get into our NASCAR portion of the show here in a second. Oh, I needed that. So moving on into our NASCAR portion of the show, Srq Development. As you know, JC Stout's team. I can't wait to see this team return. JC Stout was a fun underdog start and park driver of the late 2009s and early 2010s. We'll be back, of course, this season. It is it's already been known for about a couple of months now. It will be part-time, no more than about 15 races, I said. But it's interesting the car number that they have chosen to buy. As we've known pretty much since 1988, the 87 has run under Mcleod Motorsports and Joe Nemechek. I believe it is the first time since 1987 that the 87 will not be run with a different driver or a different owner, in Joe Nemechek. That is somewhat sad, but it's good to see the 87's legacy still going because everyone knows I'm a huge Joe Nemechek fan. And it's just kind of shame to see, the costs and the sponsorship just were not there to keep his team going, sadly. But good to see that the 87 is going to return. They will be Toyotas. Like I said, that they bought from Joe Gibbs Racing. I think they said that their first race will be Atlanta. Going to be definitely interesting to see how this part-time team goes up against these big league teams and just the monstrosity fields that we're going to be seeing this year showing up to these Xfinity races. Just cannot say enough. Wow. The Xfinity series this year, man. I can honestly say it's going to be probably, just throw out the next-gen car. The Xfinity Series is just going to be amazing this year. I'm already calling it. I'm already calling it right now. I'm not going to call a champion because there's so many good cars, so many good drivers, so many good teams. It's too hard to call a champion. I don't think we're going to physically be able to call a champion until that last lap again because so many good teams, so many good cars. And it's great to see. You love to see it, especially at a time where the costs are at the highest they've ever been. The little tie into the tie into Joe Nemechek, though, does go into another story. Sirius XM Radio did have Joe Nemechek on, and he is actively searching for a team to run for Daytona. Because as we know, even at 58 years old, nearing 60, Joe Nemechek is one of the best plate racers still going. And I wish he could get a big shot. Like, just imagine Joe Nemechek, even at his age, 58 years old, running for Junior Motorsports. Oh, that'd be great. And Junior just telling Joe, go out there and win. Guarantee you Joe would be one of the hardest cars to beat that day. Joe Nemechek was one of the best plate racers, and still I would say is. The problem for Joe is that he's been racing equipment that although he can run well with at the plate tracks, he also has to take care of it. That's the problem. Back in the day, when Joe had the sponsor dollars with like Cellular One, Bell South Mobility, he knew he had that sponsor money in the back pocket so he could run harder. Well, now he can't. They have to, more than likely have to save the vehicle for the next race. So Joe has to tone it down just a little bit. The rumor circulating is that he might run for Mike Harmon because, as we know, said that Mike Harmon's team cannot run until they pay that fine. So that would mean they're probably searching for pay drivers for Daytona. And I still hate the fine. Like, I understood the whole ordeal when I really read all the facts. But I hope Mike Harmon's team can pay the fine off. I want to see him back. I still like Mike. He's one of my favorite guys in the garage. It's always fun to say hi to him whenever I get the chance. So I hope that team can get that fine paid off. But it looks like we might not be seeing him for a couple of races. So we'll just have to see. But I could see Joe running that race. The problem is, where does Joe get the $50,000 to probably run? Because I don't believe Fleet Wing, Barry's Bullets, I don't think they're sponsoring. Well, no, Barry's Bullets does sponsor Joe's Trans Am team. I forgot about that. Barry's Bullets still sponsors him to his Trans Am team. But I don't think Fleet Wing's with Joe Nemechek anymore. It'll be interesting to see if we see Mike at Daytona for sure. If we do see Mike at Daytona, do not expect an announcement about that until like the week of. But I hope they get it paid off, and I hope we see him again with Xfinity this season. The more, the merrier. But yeah, so I do believe Barry Bullitt still sponsors his Trans Am team. So yeah, so that's good to see Joe still racing. But I hope he finds a ride. Like I just said, he's one of the best. We love him. One of my favorite guys in the garage. Unclear, though, where his career is still going to go. Like I said, he's 58. He'll be 59 this year. I don't want to see him retire because of no money. I want to see this guy going as long as Morgan Shepherd. And I think if you ask him, he would want to go as long as Morgan Shepherd into his 70s. Problem is, no money. And that's kind of the sad part. So, but I think we can all agree. We hope that Joe finds a ride for Daytona, and we can see good old front row Joe up to his name again. So that's good. We did get some news for BJ Mcleod Motorsports. Kind of everyone predicted it, but it was good to get the confirmation. Matt Mills will be returning to the 5 this season again with, of course, the JF Electric sponsorship. Dustin Albino, though, did report on Twitter that the deal is not full-time, which did shock me a little bit. Now, I don't know if that's still true, but Dustin Albino did report that the deal is the majority of the season, not full-time. And I believe that is where Nick Sanchez comes in. Because remember, Josh Williams is in the 78. Stephon Parsons is in the 99. But the 5, they said, is not full-time with Matt Mills. That, I believe, is where Nick Sanchez comes in to run his races. because then I was about to tweet out saying, well, are we going to see the return of the 76, the car that Stefan Parsons ran at Charlotte last year? Because I believe they still own that number. But then I'm like, would you really put that much trust into Nick Sanchez, a rookie, to make the show, especially in probably a well over 40-car field for just 30-something spots? So I believe that's where the other driver comes in to fill up the season, because I guess we saw reported months ago that Sanchez will be driving for BJ, but I believe this is where he kind of slots in. Matt Mills the majority of the season, and then, of course, you got Sanchez filling out the rest. We have not gotten a specific number of races that they are going. It would not shock me, though, at some points if we do see the 76, the fourth BJM car, but we'll just have to see. But obviously good news for BJ Mcleod. I can't wait to see what this team does. Everyone says for Josh Williams it's a downgrade, but the more I'm thinking about this, Josh Williams' knowledge and the kind of sponsorship he brings over, he might not get the same runs, but don't doubt this team at all. Do not doubt that team. I think BJ Mcleod Motorsports is going to have their best season to date. Since 2016, when they came into the Xfinity Series, I think BJ Mcleod Motorsports will have the best season they've ever had. They have a great roster. I think Stefan is really going to shock a lot of people. And I think, like I said, Josh is going to shock a lot of people as well. So you love to see it, and can't wait to see it in this season. Rss Racing. As we saw, Kyle Sieg, sadly, the Arca program has been abandoned, it looks like, as Kyle is now old enough to run the plate tracks. There's really no need, honestly, for the Arca team anymore, which is a shame because they were running a 2006 car. For anyone who was curious, the chassis that they were running in that Arca car was from 2006, so that was pretty cool. But with Kyle being old enough now, RSS has also announced that they are back to 3 cars. The 39, obviously full-time with Ryan Sieg. CJ McLaughlin announced that he'll be running the 38 in 14 races. And let's see here. I think, Kyle. And the 28. I was thinking of the number. So RSS is back to 3 full-time cars again, but that's the key word I just said. Is it full-time? Does RSS have the money to go back to 3 full-time cars? Because remember, even though they were at 3 full-time cars, 2 of them were starting parks. You had the 93 that would pull off after 3 laps, and then you had the 38 that would run about half the race and then would pull off. I am seeing in the chat that they will run 2 ARCA races, Portland and the Glen. So maybe they did keep an ARCA car, or maybe they'll just do a partnership with another team, which I could see as well. But that's the question. Will the 28 and the 38 be full-time? Not sure about that. Because they said that CJ only has 14 races sold in the 38. That still leaves 19 races to be sold. And what do? Do they bring back Jeff Green? Jeff Green's 59 years old. Will Jeff Green come back and be the starting park guy again? I don't think he wants to do that anymore. I think he's moved on with his career, and he just kind of wants to be a crew member now, which is a shame because, you know, even at his age, which is a shame because at his age, I think he can still go, obviously. But yeah, he's kind of just a crew member now. In the chat, I kind of forgot about Parker Retzlaff. We haven't really seen many updates about him. He said they're running about 10 races there, so, but still, that only puts them at 24 races then sold in the 38 car. So that still leaves 9 races unsold in the 38, and however many races Kyle is doing. So it'll be interesting to see who they get to fill up that 38 car. The 28, I do believe, will be a part-time car, but you're putting a lot of faith in Kyle Sieg. I'm not saying Kyle Sieg's slow, but you're taking a guy who hasn't had much experience in these Xfinity cars and you're going to thrust him into a situation where more than likely he'll have to qualify it on time. That's when I wouldn't be shocked if we see the same thing we saw back at Phoenix. Now, this is just me throwing a wild situation out there, but will they have Kyle Sieg maybe to start off his season run races in the 39 and have Ryan run the 28 just so that car can make races and then eventually thrust Kyle back in there? I don't know. That's just me throwing stuff out there. But it does worry me that if Kyle is running that 28 and the 28 is part-time, will he be quick enough to make the show? But I hope he can. I think Kyle's a good talent. He did impress in Arca with his older car, and I wish him the best of luck, obviously. But it's now interesting to see what will RSS's plans be for 2022. 3 full-time cars, 2 full-time cars and a part-time, or 1 full-time and 2 part-timers. Only time will tell, obviously. Let's see here. Scrolling down here. Oh, yeah. As you guys saw the last couple of weeks, we've been seeing sponsorships get announced for Daytona. And it's good to see that Timmy Hill will have sponsorship. I think one of the funniest stories of all of Speed Weeks, and I hope this does get reported because I think it's the funniest story of all of Speed Weeks, that Timmy Truck Series, Toyota, Xfinity Series, Chevrolet, and Cup Series, a Ford. Timmy's running all 3 makes in one weekend. I think that's hilarious. And I think it'd be a fun story for the commentators to talk about, that Timmy's running all 3 makes in one weekend. Coble Enterprises, a longtime sponsor of MBM for the last couple of years, will return on the 56 truck and on the Xfinity car. Timmy is locked in to the Daytona race, truck race based off of owner points, so no need to worry about that. As for the Xfinity car, as I said, guys, they do have a Hendrick motor and a JTG racing chassis, because as we've seen, the Fords and the Toyotas aren't particularly the best qualifying cars at the plate tracks. It's usually the Chevrolets that will reign supreme in terms of getting the pole. And remember, the 66 car finished 38th in the owner's points. So don't even think about provisionals and just go fast if you're the 66 Xfinity team. So, yeah, it's good to see that Timmy will have the sponsorship there, obviously. And, yeah, the funny story is that is the same chassis that Stenhouse sat on the pole with for the Daytona 500. So, again, the chassis history videos I would just love to do. But how about that? Stenhouse's Daytona 500 winning, he wishes, Daytona 500 pole chassis is actually going to be run in the Xfinity Series with Timmy Hill and MBM Motorsports with, they said, a Hendrick-powered engine. Hopefully they can make the race. Because obviously, with that kind of power under the hood, Timmy can easily win that race. Easily. He just has to make it to the flag. Kyle Usser in the chat, we have not heard any news right now about the 13 and the 61. I have seen posts that Chad Fincham will be announcing his 2022 plans soon. Hopefully that does involve a return to MBM. We did see him run some cup races last season. Unfortunately, they didn't go very well for him. But I hope to see him at Daytona. I think he's definitely matured very, very well on the plate tracks. He's become a great drafter. If he could just make it to the flag, that would definitely be – that's like the hardest part for the MBM cars. They always seem to get in the crashes every damn time. But the one time they can make it to the flag, they can actually be competitive. I would believe Chad's going to be back again this year for another part-time season because he does have his own car that he uses, the white and black car with the red numbers. That is Chad's own car. He does own that. So hopefully we'll see Chad again this year. Don't know how many races. As for the 61, no news on that. I don't even know if MBM is going with 3 full-time cars. Because remember, guys, the 13 only was able to run 10 races. 10 races in 2021 because of the whole top 40 rule. So, yeah, so we'll just have to see. Maybe MBM scales back down to 2 cars and runs the 13 as a part-time entry. I don't know what Carl Long's doing. Obviously, since he's one of my good friends, I wish him the best. I want whatever's best is going to happen to him. 61 will not be a Hattori entry, from what I was told by Wookie Automo TV on Twitter, that the 61 will not be a Hattori entry again, as they are going, of course, I do believe they are running Xfinity by themselves with their own guys, but they are focusing on the truck team, as obviously now they have 2 full-time trucks, and the 61 and the 16. For the sake of their drivers, hopefully they have their crash budget up there. I don't think they would run, Kyle Osser in the chat, I don't think they would run a 46 with the Hattori partnership. I don't think they would. As for also the 66 Cup car, as for Daytona, no idea what their plans are. The 42, I don't even know if MBM still owns the 42. Sir Welkstein in the chat, I don't even know if MBM still owns the 42. As for other Xfinity news today, we do have some good news for the Emmerling Gase Motorsports team. That, of course, the 35 will run full-time. It's not going to be full-time with one driver. Obviously, the goal for this season with the 35 car is to get for the top 20 bonus. That is what the 35 team is going after this season. Because Joey's not going to be full-time. Shane Lee will probably run some races in that car. But that is, I believe, what the 35's team, that would be their championship for this season, because the team is going to be good. They will run probably top 20, top 15, right up there with Alpha Prime and JD Motorsports. But that would be their goal for this season, probably to get the top 20 bonus, which will be back this year. We will be covering that with Backmarker battles, but we'll come to that point when we get there. But they also announced that they will be fielding a second entry, the 53, which is just the 35 flipped. Very creative, for Shane Lee. And it's great to see Shane Lee return. I mean, we all saw what happened with H2 Motorsports and how that was just Circuit City in 2019 coming back to sponsor a car. Yeah, that didn't scream red flags. That was just kind of funny there. But they will come back to run the 53. Right now, the only scheduled race for the car is Daytona, but we might see them at other races this season, obviously sponsorship depending. Shane Lee will probably run some races in the 35. Like I said, the 35 will be after the top 20 bonus. Important to note, if anyone's wondering, the 35 team will not have to worry about making the Daytona race. The 35 Gase team did buy the owner points from the 23 Rss Racing Our Motorsports partnership car. So that car is pretty much locked in, as the 23 car got a top 25 effort in the owner points. That car is safe. As for the 53, they don't got crap. That car will have to make the show on time, or else it goes home. So no pressure on you, Shane Lee. No pressure at all. No pressure. You just gotta go fast. That's the goal. Just go fast. But obviously, like I said, without the Chevrolet power, we have seen the Chevrolets reign supreme, at least in qualifying for the plate tracks. So if they're not running a Chevy and they're running either a Ford or Toyota, will Shane have the power to make the race? Because there's going to be a lot of competitive teams. I just cannot tell you. I think we'll probably go live. I honestly think we'll go live and follow the Xfinity qualifying session, because that's going to be so chaotic. So chaotic. Oh, they said that Joey will be in the 53. I thought they said that Shane would be in the 53. Well, maybe I got that wrong. Oh, well. Either way, pressure's on for the Emmerling Gase Motorsports team. Nitro in the comments section. Again, we would love to have 40-car fields back. But if you want to settle that, talk to the TV people. It's the TV contracts that pay the field. It's the top 36. I know you enjoyed the 40-car fields. I did not enjoy seeing these teams only get paid $4,500. That was not fair. But unfortunately, that was the best that NASCAR could really do. But if we want the fields to go up, we have to talk to the TV contract people because that's where they get the money to pay the teams. The field is set at 36 for a reason, unfortunately. I wish it would go back up because the reason why we took it down to 36 was to eliminate the starting parks. We did that. We actually did that. We got rid of the starting parks, but now we have a huge influx of teams coming back that I wish we could raise the fields back up. Yeah, Kyle Usser in the chat. Yeah, I know $4,500 is better than nothing, but to these teams, I mean, even a team like Jimmy Means Racing spends $4,500 before they even leave the damn shop. The entry fee alone is $2,200. If you guys didn't know that, the entry fee for the Xfinity Series alone is $2,200. And a set of tires, that alone is another $2,000. There goes the $4,500 right there. So, I mean, I guess you could say, yeah, it's something, but no. I mean, $4,500 is basically nothing, even to a team like Jimmy Means or Mike Harmon. Let's face it. One more thing on Mike Harmon. We did see that the 47 team did fairly well by the end of the year, but the 74 failed to finish the last 8 races and DNQ'd the finale. So if Mike Harmon does come back for 2022, do we see just the 47? I could see that. If I was Mike, I would run just one car. Even if you have the equipment for 2, I would definitely try to put all your eggs into one basket. But obviously that's Mike's decision, and we'll probably see 2 cars. I just think it'd be a little bit beneficial to run the one car, obviously. They could run the 74 in the chat. They could run the 74 with the 47's points, but I don't know if NASCAR would clear that. That all comes down to NASCAR's decision. But we'll just have to see right there. It would be nice, again, but obviously they have to pay off that $50,000 fine first. We have seen news of Zachary Tinkle. I wanted to get into this real quick. We have seen Zachary Tinkle in the news for Arca. It is unclear. Did he announce his 2022 plans and I just didn't see it? Can anyone in the chat correct me on that? Did he actually ever announce his 2022 plans, or is that still being speculated? Because I want to announce that. I want to announce that for Zachary Tinkle, but I don't want to announce it too far ahead of time, obviously. Some other stories is that the Arca series, we might actually have a DNQ. Some inside sources have pointed that we are very, very close to having a full field for the Arca race. And as so close, we might actually have a DNQ. Daytona starts 40 cars. It does say 36, but they will allow 4 provisional entries. But we might actually have a DNQ for the Arca race, and that would be shocking. And unfortunately, it might be from the Peterson team, because we also saw that the 0 will be run by Khan. The 06 will be run by, I believe, Tinkle in Daytona. But that 06, that 0 car, the 0 Chevrolet, can only go about 168. That's nowhere near close enough to make the race. By the way, if you guys are curious, as I pointed out numerous times, the Arca competitor site is your information go-to for any Arca race. And they have released the Daytona entry blank. So if you guys are interested to see what the Daytona payouts are, simply go to arcaracing.com, scroll to the very bottom, you will see competitor site. Scroll about halfway down, and you can literally right there find the entry blank. And it'll take you down to the entry blank where you guys can, I remember last year, a couple years ago when I found these, I liked to print them out, and, write my name in there as if I was driving, because I was a dumb little kid back then. But in case you guys are wondering, first place will be $17,500, but prize money with the contingency decals, which is, the little stickers you see in front of the number and ahead of the front tires. The actual total would be $25,875 for first place, $16,325 for second place, and $11,600 for third place. Again, not the best payouts, and we have seen people complain about payouts in Arca, but this is one thing you guys got to understand. The payouts have been like this for a long time. And I mean, probably well over 10 years, 10, 15 years. Why do you think all those years ago in the late 2000s, we saw teams like Venerini, Norm, Peterson, Basham running a start and park entry? It was to get that extra $1,000. We even saw Brad Smith running a start and park entry with his plate car at a short track for an extra $1,000. The payouts have always been like this for quite a long time. Does it suck? Absolutely. Again, I cannot stress enough. And again, it's just my own personal opinion. We have the $300,000 Coca-Cola iRacing League. I understand that. All right. iRacing is kind of the future. I get that. But you take that $300,000 and you put it into a series like Arca. You have no idea how much that would help that series. Even just putting an extra $1,000 to $2,000 at the back of the field purses would help so much. And it's the same thing for the super late model circuit. And the actual late model circuit, every late model circuit, the payouts have been like this for a long time. It's just in the last couple of years, entry blanks have been made public, which is something we haven't really seen ever. So for the people who've been complaining about this lately, it's been like this for a long time. Does it suck? Yes, it absolutely sucks. But it does bother me just a little bit. And this is just me personally, okay? That we have the $300,000 iRacing deal, but we can't put that money into Arca. That does bother me, and that's bothered me for a couple of years. But again, that's just my personal opinion. I wish we could get that kind of hype, that type of energy back into Arca. Because we saw last season that fight between Heim and Gibbs. Did it get ugly at a couple of points? Yes, it did. It got ugly. But it was also very entertaining. But like I said, that's just my gripe. In case you guys are wondering, though, last place, it's been the same for a couple of years now. Last place at Daytona does pay $2,200, which, again, for a plate track is just, it's not that good, I wish it was a little better. And like I said, even upping that by just a couple of $1,000 to maybe $4,200 or $5,200 would help so much. But unfortunately, that's just kind of how it is and how it goes. Obviously, and that's why I know everyone goes to Daytona to see the big one, the big wreck. But when it comes to Arca, I don't want to see a big wreck because we've seen in the past when Arca gets these big ones, it kills the race because we have so many good cars being taken out. We saw last year at Talladega, I think you guys can personally agree with me, that Talladega Arca race last year was probably one of the best races, if not the best race of the composite body era of Arca. We only had 29 cars for that one, but it was very, very entertaining. And I just don't like seeing them get crashed because you look at even the Daytona race last year. We didn't even have that big of a crash, but it took out a couple of good cars, and the flow of the race just kind of died. So I don't want to see a big one, but obviously with all the young kids and the older guys in the field, you don't know what's going to happen, obviously. And yeah, Joshua Weatherman in the chat, I mean, you're right. The Caraway race for the Cars Tour pays only $30,000. I mean, the one thing is, it was like this back in even the 80s and 90s. the payouts really for the lower divisions of racing have always been garbage. They just haven't been really released until now. Is there anything we can do about it? No, there really isn't. I mean, I could complain about it, but that's not going to help anything. But obviously, it's just a telltale sign of, for a lot of teams like Peterson, Brad Smith, Daytona, you want to be as competitive as you can be, but you also have to play the safe game. And unfortunately, that's kind of what I see Peterson doing for Daytona and Talladega. Same with Brad. Kind of just, logging laps, getting that around there, having fun at the same time, and getting the best finish they obviously can. Same thing with Andy Hillenberg, but obviously Andy, the plate races and the dirt tracks are really the races that Andy, he brings the best damn equipment he's got in that shop. If there's any more news in the Arca chat real quick, I'd love to talk about it, but I've kind of went off on the payments. If you guys also want to check out the new Smyrna, we might as well look at this one then real quick. The new Smyrna entry blank for the East race, which will take place the Tuesday beforehand, will also be on there. Now, last year we only saw 16 cars, which is kind of sad. It does say that first place is only $5,000, but the prize money with the contingency decals, I told you that go before the fender. The real total is $11,100 for first, $4,600 for second, and $3,550 for third. Last place will actually pretty much be determined by how many cars show up. But the lowest amount of purse money that a team could possibly get for that new Smyrna race would be just $1,000. Which obviously we know not the best, but that's just kind of how it goes. Good to see in the chat. Yeah. Obviously we've seen the West Series not struggle at all with good field sizes this season. And Paul Pedroncelli, PJ Pedroncelli's father, we saw this last season, did do a couple of starting parks. Pretty much the whole season. Starting park in the 31 with a couple of full races. The West Series, God, they might have bigger fields than the main series. That series is just doing so well, and it's great to see. I think he'll still show up. It's still an extra $1,000. And for a family team like that, they do need the money. So I would definitely expect to still see the 31 there. Arca would always love to have the extra car just so they could have the extra entry. So Sir Welkstein, I definitely think we will actually see the 31 there. Maybe not at every race. Maybe the races that just absolutely need it. But good to know that PJ Pedroncelli, a guy who I wish would have won the ARCA championship in the West Series last season, will be back for 2022, hopefully to avenge his championship for this season. I have heard rumblings, Kyle Usser in the chat, that it might be AJ Moyer and Con Nicolopoulos for Daytona. Peterson, I don't think, has fully announced his Daytona lineup yet. I can say that Con Nicolopoulos will be there driving the white Chevrolet that he's been accustomed to driving the last couple of years. You guys know the car with the red window net, which is kind of funny. I didn't think you were allowed to run colored window nets without approval. Oh, yeah, Josh Weatherman in the chat. Oh, we're not bashing the Cars Tour. I love the Cars Tour. We're not meaning to bashing the payouts. It's just, the Cars Tour we've seen, though, does pay more than sometimes what an ARCA race makes. It just goes to show you that lower budget series payouts, they differ all over the place. But for a series like ARCA, the Cars Tour pays more. But unfortunately, that's just not really my road to. That's not my hill to die on. That's not my hill to rant on. But obviously, I think it's just, a guy like Joshua and I, we want the Cars Tour to succeed. We want ARCA and Cars Tour to live on for another 10 years. I think the argument that we're presenting is that with payouts like this, with Cars Tour, the Cars Tour payouts for the back of the field were even worse than ARCA. I mean, I remember Zachary Tinkle telling me that for his 53 team, they would get $500 for what, 14th? Like, that is nothing, man. Like, Joshua and I, we want these series to go another 10 years. But with payouts like this, the likelihood is just it may not go another 10 years. But we want it to. We want these series to keep going. That's the gripe that we're saying. We're not ranting about the series. We just want the series to succeed the best way possible. I think that's what Josh and I were trying to, Josh in the chat, and that's what I'm trying to get out. Relkstein in the chat, yeah, Con Nicolopoulos winning. Yeah, a legacy motored car that can't even go 170 by itself in victory lane. Oh, that'd be the best. But likelihood of that happening is not. But yeah, so that's kind of the news all for today. Alpha Prime Racing for Tommy Joe Martins apparently will announce somewhat an announcement every day this week, which is kind of entertaining. Oh, the one little last note I wanted to get on Kaz Grala was this, and I wanted to give you guys his opinion on this. We did see that Andy Lally was released. Is he Andy Lally's replacement since Kaz is kind of a road ringer? Or was this already in the works? What do you guys think? Was this Andy's replacement? Or was this already in the works? That's the little question that I kind of have. Like I said, what are they going to announce for the rest of the season? We don't know. We'll be on the show for this Wednesday. In case you guys are wondering, I've been mentioning it a couple of times, but I haven't really gotten around to it. This Wednesday, we will not have an episode of the Arca Racing podcast, mainly because there's no races to cover, really no news to cover. We kind of covered it all here. This Wednesday, we will have the debut of the new show that I want to try. It's called J-Ski Archive Rewind, and it's basically where we go on jski.com. J-Ski was able to find all their archives, and we'll pick a year, we'll pick a month, and we'll pick a series. And basically, you will be live right here as I go down the entire list and read down all the news and notes of what happened in, like, I don't know, the Xfinity series of July of 2008. So if you guys are interested in that, join me on Wednesday. For that, as always, though, I think we're out of news today. Definitely thank you guys for joining me. Of course, follow me at Start and Park Car. Check out the Daytona Test podcast. Again, we had 12 people. We had almost 17 people at one point watching live today. I cannot thank you guys enough for spending an hour with me. God bless you all. I love you all. Have a good rest of your night. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. And as always, follow Start and Parks, follow Brad Smith, follow Arca Racing, and have a good night, guys. See you later. So long.